Hi everybody, Thoughtful Learning here. My name is Rob King. Problem solving. We've heard a lot about problem solving and the need to teach it. But how do you teach problem solving and innovation? Aren't these just things that people know how to do or don't know how to do? And for that matter, another question that we can ask ourselves is, why teach problem solving? Well, a quick look at the Forbes Top 50 list, these are the billionaires in the world, can give us a little clue as to why we might want to teach problem solving. In addition to the Walton family that owns Walmart, we have a bunch of other people, some old money and some very new money, people like Bill Gates, for example. If you go down, you see Jeff Bezos, as well as Larry Page and Sergey Brin and Mark Zuckerberg. These are people who are problem solvers and innovators. In fact, they're people who have solved problems we didn't even know that we had. The problems that they solved have changed the way that all of us are living in the world. So let's take a look at Google. How exactly do you get a job at a problem-solving place like Google? Well, in a recent article in the New York Times, Thomas Friedman talked about exactly that. He pointed to the specific traits that Google is now looking for in their job applicants. For every job, though, the number one thing we look for is general cognitive ability. And it's not IQ. It's learning ability. It's the ability to process on the fly. It's the ability to put together disparate bits of information. A little bit lower, Friedman talks about a quality that Google calls emergent leadership. What we care about is when faced with a problem and you're a member of a team, do you at an appropriate time step in and lead? And just as critically, do you step back and stop leading? Do you let someone else? All right, so we've seen why we should teach problem solving, because our world is being shaped by the problem solvers. In fact, that's where the jobs are in the future. But how do we teach problem solving? Well, there are two components to problem solving. There's critical thinking, which is close, attentional thinking. It's looking in a more and more focused way at a problem, looking at the individual parts of it, figuring out how they work, figuring out what contributes to them. So when you think about critical thinking, you can think about thinking inside the box. It's very focused and intentional. Believe it or not, there are all kinds of critical thinking strategies that we can teach. In fact, this chart shows specific critical thinking strategies and where they fit in Bloom's revised taxonomy of thinking. So there's pattern finding and mnemonics. There's sequencing, classifying, comparing and contrasting, tracing causes and effects. Let's look at tracing causes and effects. Here we have a cause-effect chart. In the center, we talk about the moon's formation. That's the phenomenon that we're going to take a look at. On the left side, we list causes of that formation. For example, there was a proto-Earth, there was an impactor. It hit a glancing blow on our forming planet. It ejected bits of the crust that then reaccreted into a moon. So those are on the cause side. If we look on the right, we see the things that are on the effect side. This moon formation caused our planet to tilt on its axis, which created the seasons for us. It made our planet more stable, because the moon is out there like a gyroscope that helps to hold the planet in its current orientation. So if you teach students this strategy of creating a cause-effect chart that can trace all of the causes that go into something and all of the effects that come out of that something, you help the student to think critically about whatever topic you happen to be teaching. So if critical thinking is that careful, close, intentional thinking that focuses in on a topic, creative thinking is the opposite. It's divergent thinking that starts at the topic and moves outward, that seeks possibility, that seeks profundity, that looks for uniqueness and new connections that nobody else has seen. Just as we could teach critical thinking strategies, we can also teach creative thinking strategies. It's not that you have to leave these up to the art teachers or to the teachers of music or drama. There are specific creative thinking strategies that all students can learn. For example, we have brainstorming and visualization, metaphorical thinking, conceptual blending using force connections, perspective shifting, and moving on down the list. Here's a creative thinking strategy you've probably not heard of. It's called manipulative verbs. Basically, manipulative verbs are verbs that give you a command about whatever it is that you're looking at. For example, accelerate, or accessorize, or amplify, or automate. By using one of these manipulative verbs and applying it to whatever it is that you are focused on and looking at, it helps you think of that thing in a new way. So we've just seen one strategy for teaching creative thinking and another strategy for teaching critical thinking. Let's put them together into problem solving. Problem solving is simply the process of moving between critical and creative thinking. You start with critical thinking, analyzing the problem, then you shift to creative thinking, imagining solutions, and back and forth until the problem is solved. Let's look at a real-world example. In the poorest areas of major cities across the world, there are slums. There are places where people live in tight, packed shanties. Because the different shanties share walls, there's no room for windows. The dwelling places are completely dark. A group of students from MIT decided, well, we should be able to solve this problem. So they started by analyzing the problem, looking at its causes and effects. Then they brainstormed possible solutions. What ways could they fix the problem? Get rid of some of the causes, get rid of some of the effects. They came up with a really innovative idea of taking a soda bottle and turning it into a sort of light bulb. And they experimented with different ways that they could make that soda bottle reflect sunlight into a dark dwelling. They used the problem-solving method, the scientific method, the engineering design method, and many other approaches to create their solution. Once they had created a prototype, they looked at all of the different traits of that prototype and figured out ways that they could make each trait stronger. You can go to aleaderoflight.org to find out more about how these simple soda bottles changed the lives of many people in Manila and across the world. That's the power of problem solving. That's the power of critical thinking and creative thinking put together. Thanks, I'm Rob King.